Live from HangoutConversations.com with Matthew Rappaport, Bobby Joe Woods, and Peter McDermott. Good evening. A new study for the Centers for Disease Control released Tuesday has found a direct link between particularly aggressive strain of ocular and brain cancer and reading text on a computer screen. The study also concluded that the cancer is treatable if caught early, unless one encounters the sort of icon which indicates the end of an article, in which case there is no cure.
That is not funny, is it? Ha!
Oh, yeah. One for you and one for me. Two for you and 1, 2 for me. 3 for you and 1, 2, 3 for me. Yeah.
What's up, Doc?
One for you.
How about me, boss?
Oh, yeah, one for you.
And me, boss.
One for you. And me, boss. One for you.
And me, boss.
And one for you.
And me, boss.
One for you.
And me, boss.
One for you.
And here we go. Awesome. Welcome to Hangout Conversations. That was Peter McDermott and Bobby Joe Woods, and I'd like to thank you for joining us here on HangoutConversations.com, bit.ly/Hangout Live. I feel like I'm freezing a little bit. I'm not sure. I don't see myself moving. There we go. Your computer was buffering, or mine was. Do not be scared. We have an exciting show coming up for you tonight. Peter McDermott, aforementioned guest. We had a great guest last week, Mike Stenger of MikeStenger.com. And we're looking forward to an awesome show. We have a lot of surprises. We have a lot to get to. And it's a very exciting Brady Halloween special here. No Tom Brady, but maybe Marsha will drop by. And I am Rappapapa Action. Lucas Johnson has coined that phrase, Rappapap Action. I don't know how to say it yet. We're going to have him on next week and see how he says it. So that should be fascinating stuff. And this is a show. This is Hangout Conversations. It's a one-on-one interview show, chat show actually, where I meet people on G+, Google+, Hangouts, and I interview them, I talk to them, we have a conversation, we have laughs, and it's about meeting new people, not just celebrities, but everyday people trying to do some cool stuff. We had Daniel Armendariz, who's a DJ, who's really cool. He works for Dell. Episode 2, we had Jeffrey Powers of Geekazine and Bacon Cat. He likes bacon, he's a bacon cat. Then we had Mike Stenger last week, who was great. He killed a couple of Muppets to make a nice hat. And MikeStenger.com. And this week we have a great guest. Lots of great guests coming up. But the big story in the news was Steve Jobs passing, which is very sad. And Steve Jobs has done some amazing things with technology, and we're going to talk to our guests about that. But what's interesting about Steve Jobs passing is, like a lot of deaths, they take over the social media world. They take over Facebook and Twitter and now Google+. And a lot of people, what I'm seeing, what I expected is that our streams would be filled with Steve Jobs this and Steve Jobs that and Apple, and they just had their press conference as well. So it was interesting to see some people get a little bit annoyed and some people partaking, when I think that it's normal for a big story to be all over the streams for a couple of days. And someone like Steve Jobs, who, no matter how you feel about him, he has done a lot for technology, for our everyday lives. So it'll be interesting to talk to Peter about that, about his take. He does a lot of Apple coverage. And there are a lot of Apple-related questions. Also, we'll get to Occupy Wall Street. And we do not have our live reporter, Michael Mozart, here. He is busy. Maybe we'll get him one day. I hope he's safe, Michael Mozart. But he did meet Mike Myers, which was kind of cool. You know, Austin Powers, not the guy from Halloween who tries to kill Jamie Lee Curtis. Anyway, without further ado, let's talk about tonight's guest, special guest. Tonight's guest hails from Pittsburgh, PA. Hello, Pittsburgh. He lives in Nashville, where the ghost of the king may visit his studio each night for good podcasting and killer nachos. The man behind the news of the Hangout, as well as MicroPatrol.com, with Micropatrol TV, the fun, the funny, the always smartly dressed Peter McDermott. Hello, Peter.
Good evening, Matthew.
Woohoo! Good evening. Where are you reporting to us tonight? From where?
Tonight we're at our studio here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville, you don't say. They have good eats down there, don't they? Do we have a connection problem?
No
longer.
We're good. The satellite connection was a little bad there, Matthew, but I think we're doing better.
We are doing a lot better. I remember having a hangout, and you dropped in, which was awesome. And we were having political conversations. I believe me, you, Bobby Joe Woods, Brian Alridge was there. We had one with Dirk Meridens. A couple of political conversations going, and then I saw the radio podcasting space, and I was like, wow, this guy's got some serious equipment and not just between his legs, and that was interesting, and I thought that was pretty cool. So I was ready to rumble, and I was like, wow, he's a smart guy, he's a little liberal like me, and we took on some conservative people that we're friends with. Bobby Joe is a little conservative, and not to get political, and Brian and It was a good time. So, and here we are today after a lot of epic hangouts, a lot of epic recordings. So it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you for doing our show and promoting CNN at the same time.
It's a pleasure to be here, Matthew. It really, really is.
I'm sorry, Bobby Joe. No, the views of what I just said, it was just an opinion. Bobby Joe. Bobby Joe. No, this is not a political show. We're all open-minded is what I meant to say. Did you see something? What? Beat me up. Who said that? Anyway, who? Sometimes I just channel people like Scotty and De Niro. Are you talking to me? I don't think anyone else is here you're talking to. I should probably be clicking on myself more. Hey, there I am, but I'm a little fuzzy, so Peter McDermott's got the smart tie, the yellow tie. Anyway, where were we? We were in a hangout. We met each other. And what were your... I mean, I thought you were a cool guy. You thought there was something to me, maybe. Probably you looked at my profile and said, how does he have so many people following him? He's a freaking nutcase. Or the opposite. I don't know.
Well, actually, Matthew, when I met you, I wondered if you and Raleigh Burke were sharing the same headset, but then I saw you both in a hangout at the same time, so I realized you guys weren't separated at birth.
That's interesting. This headset is something that I got because people bitched about the microphone from my Logitech, and the Rock Band mic didn't do too well. So Melody Parks introduced me to this gaming headset, which makes me look like Princess Leia, except not as beautiful, I guess. Anyway, but that's the story behind that. But yeah, me and Raleigh Burke are not related, and but I know who she is, and she's created Boober Day. What do you think about Boober Day? Is that something that bothers you? Do you have any opinion on Boober Day? We haven't talked about that much.
Matthew, nothing involving a celebration of breasts offends me in any way.
That's awesome.
I do not find it demeaning to myself, although I do understand there are some other people in the social circles that may find said streamage demeaning.
Very interesting. And I believe you're inspired by one Edward G. Robinson, and for those of you that watched the promos and saw us do that, we said, say, Ked, say, and we were talking like Conan O'Brien and Edward G. Robinson, and you say tomato, I say tomato, but that was from Bobby Joe Woods. She likes to chime in. That was that ping. But yeah, so see, that's what that's about. We like the radio. We like the old style. We like the Bugs Bunny. See, kids, see. We're going places, and that's what that was about. For those of you that were confused and didn't quite get it, I mean, not everybody can get it. So, cool. So Micro Patrol TV, that's your awesome show. I've watched it. I watched a couple of episodes, and I know that's your thing. You want to talk a little bit about Micro Patrol TV and where you hope to go with it? What's going on with it? I know you just released an episode about Apple and Occupy Wall Street. So, what you got for us on that forefront?
Yeah, absolutely, Matthew. MicroPatrol.com is something I started as a avenue to share video news, but mostly interactive video news. I'd like to get people involved using Hangouts, like you seem to have beat me to the punch here with your show, HangoutConversations.com, with the punch. That was the punch. But no, it's a weekly show that I do online. It's on YouTube, youtube.com/MicroPatrolTV, or MicroPatrol.com, where you'll find lots of other content, including blogs, product reviews, and a lot of interactive things there. There's a lot more coming down the pipe where we're going to be integrating some interactive posts with G+. We had one where I asked everybody to share a photograph of their 8-to-5 workspace. We'll be compiling those and
I saw that.
Making a new way to interact with people and allow them to share their story and how technology affects their life. But the website is not geared towards techies. It's not geared towards geeks. It is geared towards people that don't know what the fuck they're doing on the internet.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. That covers a wide array of people. Wow,
That's
my
true.
webcam is really crazy tonight, but hopefully it's not out of focus for all those people watching. I did my makeup and everything. Damn. Yeah, but that's really cool. I like your show. I like what you're doing. I like the mix of like serious and comedy and tech and news stories, and you really get it around. And I think you have potential to do your own hangout show, your own shows, and I would support you. I support a lot of people. I try to support people with this show and G+. So that is awesome. Hey, I have a couple interesting questions. What, just out of curiosity, just random, that's how I swing, how I roll. Who is your favorite news anchor of all time? whether it's the internet or TV, or do you have a favorite?
You know, my favorite since growing up would be the former anchor of NBC Nightly News, none other than Tom Brokaw, who has reported the news in a very sluggish and slurrish fashion, especially with numerous reports about the all-out attack the Palestinians have launched on the Israelis. His style of reporting and his very unintelligible vocals are just something that I've loved growing up with. And, you know, when we switched over to Brian Williams with an nasolated nightly news,
What's wrong with
I
Nagel?
wasn't really as thoroughly impressed as I was with Tom Brokaw.
Here's my question for you then, as Tom Brokaw. Was Tom Brokaw usually sober, or what was your? Because your impression made it seem like he enjoyed his little flask out of his pocket and maybe enjoyed his liquor.
Tom Brokaw was always a very sober man. However, his speech was make him sound otherwise. Now, what you're alluding to, though, Matthew, is the announcer from, I believe it was Major Leagues. If you remember the radio announcer there. Yeah.
Just a bit outside.
Just a bit outside, and I'm going to take another nibble bottle here.
What are you drinking?
You ever listen to baseball on the radio, Matt?
Yes, I have.
One of the things I love about commentators for baseball on the radio is how they link things together. And what I'm talking about is how they do their advertising while they're communicating the game. Baseball, probably one of the most boring things you could listen to on the radio. The News Hour with Jim Laird, that could be a little more painful to listen to on the radio. However, with baseball, one of the things I love is Pop Fly out in center field. Speaking of field, try Mrs. Field's salads, available in the grocer's aisle at your local supercenter. Speaking of centers, the Staples Center is hosting a concert. That's a foul ball. It's 2-3 now. Speaking of 3, if you like 3% off your next purchase, and, you know, just the way they link things together, and you can hardly fucking remember you're listening to a baseball game. I love it.
Yeah, I agree. But you know, sometimes that's annoying, and sometimes it's interesting, depending on the game. Sometimes the game is really boring, and there's really not a lot going on. I understand during those moments, even on TV, when you watch the game, and they try to commentate about movies or something else. Keith Hernandez, I'm a Mets fan, unfortunately, and Keith Hernandez does the first baseman. Keith Hernandez, former, you know, Seinfeld fame and whatever, he'll interject and he'll say, "Well, I haven't really seen that movie," or blah blah blah, to sound different. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Peter McDermott kind of wants you to add him. I don't know why I would say that. What about, you know, Occupy Wall Street's a very serious matter, and I'd like to say hi to the people in the live stream. We'll get to your questions, and it's a pleasure to have you here as well. But Occupy Wall Street has turned into Occupy Sesame Street and Occupy Walmart and all these memes that people are coming up with. Occupy Hangouts is a really good one. So what do you think? So you're supporting the Occupy memes, and do you want to get into the Occupy Wall Street, or just talk about the memes? It's up to you. It's your call.
Well, we can talk about Occupy Wall Street for a little bit. First of all, there's a couple things I want to touch on. Number one, the media coverage is absolutely ridiculous. There's not enough. Now, part of the reason is I think a lot of the news organizations are a little uncertain about what angle to take. And one of those problems is the mixed messages. There's been a lot of criticism that, you know, from the right, that these are a bunch of hippies that don't really have any demands. They should take a shower and get a job. At the same time, there are a lot of good arguments that do come from people in the 99% and in the Occupy Wall Street movements. However, there is not one central demand or one central argument. And I think that is what's going to make it falter. There's been a lot of coverage. Michael Mozart, obviously, using Google Plus as a great tool to carry his coverage of him being there in New York. But if you look at some of the signs, I saw a sign today where somebody was holding up a sign and it said, "Profit is bad." And, you know, I don't know where he got the cardboard box, but I think Kimberly Clark may have made it. And the marker he made was probably made by Procter & Gamble. And the clothes he were wearing were probably bought at the Gap. Right. And those are all companies that survive off of profit. So it's one thing to be upset when CEOs are taking home 500 times the amount of pay that a New York City police officer makes in a year. That's something that's okay to be upset about, and the fact that they're not being taxed the same 20% that a teacher on a $50,000 a year salary is making. That I understand and agree with, but the fact that there's no specific set of demands and it's just kind of like a movement, but where are you trying to move? That's why it upsets me, and that's why I'm joking a bit with the Occupy Hangouts meme behind me.
No, I hear what you're saying, and I just think that people want their voices to be heard, and this is actually a great way to be heard. I mean, how could you miss what they're doing, whether the media is covering it or not in the correct way, the full way? There's been some here and there, but not to what it should be. But I totally agree with you that the list of demands. There's so many people that are out there. They all are out there for a different reason, whether it's for their own job, their own cause, someone they know, or whatever it may be. I will say this. Minimum wage is still pretty freaking low, and every state is different. Minimum wage varies a little bit, but every state cost of living varies. And I said it before, when a gallon of gas costs more than 50% of an hourly wage, of minimum wage, that's a problem, and people can't survive on that. And there's only so many hours.
Well, that's changing, Matthew. Though I mean, it's under half of minimum wage here, so that is something that's changing.
Yeah, but gallon of gas is about somewhere between $3.80 and $4, and minimum wage is what, $7.25. That's more than half, isn't it?
Well, gas here, Matthew, is down to about $3.20 at most per gallon.
Okay, so let's say, for argument's sake, let's say somewhere between 40 and 60%. But that's still a lot of money. And my point is, milk and bills and everything is going up when minimum wage. And yeah, not everyone's gonna have minimum wage, but not everybody can afford to go to college, and not everybody can afford. There should be something. You should be able to work a minimum wage job and still be able to live somewhere, and not have all the accessories, but be able to have clothes and food and gas. Your basics. But people are struggling even with 2 minimum wage jobs, and I think that's part of the issue. That's a big issue. That's the poorest of the poor. Even people complain about government assistance, whether people get it or not, and there are people that occupy Walmart, people that work at Walmart that they want them to be on welfare. They want them to work extra overtime and be on welfare and do all that stuff. And they're big corporations, so there's a lot of craziness. There's a lot of the story, a lot of different sides of the story. But I'm personally glad that they're doing it. I'm glad that they're letting their voices be heard, whether they have set demands or not. I mean, because let's face it, there's so many people. How do they organize to have set demands? What would be the strategy in that? How would they do that? There's not.
Well, in Matthew, it should have been organized before it was launched. I think it gained so much momentum, and we're kind of in this age, especially with millennials like you and myself, where we have this great idea, this great vision, but we don't narrow it down and we don't perfect it before we go live with it. Right. Because now we're in a culture of instantaneous. Everything is right here and right now. People are forgetting to really craft in and hone in on whatever message it is that they're trying to communicate, or whatever it is they're trying to create. People are just forgetting to perfect those things before they go live and launch with them.
I agree. Question from the chat room. This comes from Raleigh Burke. I can't do a Tom Brokaw like you. Palm Springs, California. Hey, Raleigh, we just mentioned you later. Wants to know your views on Mrs. Obama shopping at Target or Target. What are your views of that? I didn't necessarily hear about this. I guess she wants to know what your views on the fact that Michelle Obama was there shopping at a corporation.
Well, my negativity is not focused towards the First Lady. It's actually focused towards Target. As part of a recent MicroPatrol.com investigation, I received an email, which would come across to most as spam, but it was the weekly email newsletter I get from Target. And the subject line of this email was, "It pays to like us on Facebook." Okay? So reading further into the email, it said I'd be offered special discounts and promotions by friending Target on Facebook. So to look further into the true meaning of the subject matter, I did send an email to customer relations at Target, and just now, 3 days later, from sending that email, I did get a response from Peggy, who works in Walmart customer relations, and
or Target, right?
I actually got that I'm sorry, at Target customer relations, and I have that message here right now. If you give me just a second. I support the First Lady shopping wherever she would like. I'm glad that she's shopping within her means and showing the rest of America that you can be thrifty. That's great. I don't know if she's trying to promote anything in particular. The email from Target does read, however, "Dear Peter McDermott, thanks for taking the time to ask us about Facebook. Although you don't get paid cash or receive gift cards for liking us on Facebook, you can get deals and offers that will save you money. We look forward to showing you what's new at Target. Sincerely, Peggy. I will have a very long email reply back to Peggy in the coming days, asking her to be a little more specific about those deals and promotions, and letting her know that she already has my physical address, my email address, and several hundred copies of my signature. So I believe there should be something in it for me for liking her on Facebook.
I agree. I think that the social media world is a little nutty. I mean, I guess they feel like liking their company is not a big deal, but it does become a big deal because you have influence on your social network, and when you like something, everyone can see that you liked it, and if you have 100 people, you have 2,000 on G+, I mean, we're in the thousands, so there's a lot of people that we can influence just by clicking one button, and the value of that is not appreciated by companies, or they feel like they're giving something, but what they're giving is not necessarily more than they would give your average consumer, the person that has like a Target credit card or something like that. So,
right, and I think, Matthew, that's the next phase of social media, is the fact that companies are harnessing their leverage with their thousands of followers, but just as you, me, Bobby, and several people in the chat room right now have several thousand people following us just here on Google+, not to mention other networks, I think it's important for the companies to remember how much clout we carry in our words and our opinions about those companies and their products. And I think it's important for them to be a little more careful about how they deal with us. So in my next reply to Target, I will discuss a little bit about my following on Google+, the fact that I am sharing this whole story with the Wired world.
Awesome. Yeah, and there's so many different issues with these corporations and Occupy Wall Street and everything in general that there's just so much involved. It's not just like one little tiny thing. There's so many different angles and sides to it, and when they're news stories, they try to like belittle it and they try to make it seem like it's something, oh, they're just out there being silly, but someone does make a good point. Someone did say something about Tea Party members. They get coverage, and as far as I know, I don't believe there have been any Tea Party protests where there have been pepper spraying and people getting beaten up as far as the cops are involved. But I don't really know. I'm sure there's been a few, but maybe not to this. But maybe not to this extreme, and maybe there weren't that as many people as there were as Occupy Wall Street. So, and I'm in New York City as well. I haven't totally seen it. I don't really want to go. I mean, I'm all for protesting, but it seems like it's an all-out every man for themselves kind of thing.
Very barbaric.
Very, yeah. Very. Yeah. Hey, so let's move on a little bit. They're talking in the chat room about where they shop. Someone mentioned different places, good products. Yeah, I mean, these stores have good products, and that's, like I said, that's another issue, like how these products are made and all that. But we don't have to get into that, on this show. We can definitely talk about it in Conversations Plus coming up next. On a less serious note, MySpace. You made a post about MySpace. What is the deal with MySpace? Yeah, I saw you post on Google Plus your profile. Most of us haven't been on MySpace in a while. Justin Timberlake supposedly is now involved in MySpace. What do you think MySpace will ever be a player again? They'll just be. Mike Stenger said they would be niche, just be like for music. Do you think that they have any kind of ability to jump in, or they've got to tie to Facebook now? Well,
Matthew, it was my understanding a few days ago, before the Facebook launch, that MySpace was going to be having a redesigned site, a huge announcement coming out. I suffer from a syndrome that I know several other people of the same age suffer from, and that being that we registered for the social networking site using our collegiate email address. Unfortunately, the only way that you can remove your account is through a verification email to the original email you used to register. So if you're like me and you use your collegiate email to register for the service, you cannot delete your account unless you can get your collegiate email back, which I obviously no longer have access to. So kind of a catch-22 for me and lots of other users, and I think that's how they've kept their numbers up, by locking people in.
That makes,
but where it's going to go,
sense.
What they're going to do, I have no hope and no faith.
Yeah, I think MySpace has a shot if they play it right, if they have enough celebrities and enough interaction, enough music. If they get free music, if they get all the popular artists to do music and live shows, I think that people will come over for that. I mean, that'll be worth something for especially teenagers and early 20-somethings. They'll say, Facebook doesn't have, they have Spotify, but they don't have like musicians like performing and putting out live stuff. They do a little bit on their pages, but not all. When you go to Facebook, that's not in your face like it is going to be in MySpace, I think. So that'll be interesting.
Well, Matthew, though, I think what MySpace has to battle with is its reputation.
No.
It was a farm for trolls, for men hitting on women. I know a lot of women that I'm friends with were never comfortable there, and it was just a giant spam fest. And if you look at your stream on Google Plus or Facebook now, MySpace looks like GeoCities in comparison.
Right.
So I visited, and the screenshot I posted said, "We're sorry, there's nothing to post in your stream." Okay, well then I don't really have a reason to come back here.
Yeah, that's a good point. Women feeling comfortable or not comfortable, and I think that just because Facebook women were more likely to go there, and they have, and now G Plus are coming over, but there's still that aspect of people hitting on each other. But I think what you're saying is more maybe more of the spam and more of the spam of the sex women, the adult content, women making you their friends or men making you their friends, and they're spam bots or whatever. But Bobby Joe brings up a point, just because she's saying that women are getting hit on G Plus. I'm sure they are. There's flirting going on. It takes two to tango, though. But I'm sure that there are people that there are creepers and other things going on. We have Hangouts. People were kind of scared to go into these Hangouts. Women supposedly, because even men, because they had no idea what to expect. Chat roulette, and I think that over time it's gotten better. But there's always going to be trolls. There's always going to be people that feel uncomfortable, people that are strange, people that make the experience weird. The fine line between joking and being serious, and where to cross that line or where not to cross that line. It's very individual. So, what is your experience with the Hangouts so far? Have you experienced? I know we've had a lot of fun Hangouts. Have you experienced this women being uncomfortable, strange things being said, crossing one person's line but not another person's line, things like that, of that nature?
Matthew, this is the first time I've used the Hangout feature, so I'm really not familiar.
All right, that's good. Thank you for being so honest on Hangout Conversations. But
I just actually accepted your friend's request right before the video, so I really don't know a whole lot about Google Plus.
What the hell is a friend request? I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Anyway, Peter McDermott seems to be confused. It must be the lack of booze, but I think he's just messing around. It must be the yellow tie. Tie a yellow tie around Peter's neck, and you never know what's going to happen. See here, kid? But, yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff that's going on with Google+. That was the laughter of Bobby Joe Woods. Don't be scared. Happens from time to time.